Hello and welcome to the Life Waves practice. My name is Sarah Bainbridge and I'm passionate about helping you achieve total well-being in our modern world, helping you to feel fabulous. So welcome to today's live stream, and if you're joining us via the replay, then it's lovely to have you along. I'm really pleased that you've taken the time to stop and have a look at this video, and I hope you find it useful. If you are listening to the replay, please do post any questions or comments that you have below this video and I'll be more than happy to answer them. So please do feel free to do that. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how to eat yourself well and why having that healthy diet doesn't have to be hard. So I think we're all aware that there's so much conflicting advice and information out there about diets and what to eat and when to eat and how much to eat. Every time you turn the television on, or you pick up a magazine or a newspaper, or look at the news feed on your phone, then there's something new. So this week this is the thing that you need to be eating and this is how you need to be eating it. Next week, no, that's all wrong, that's absolutely the worst thing that you can be doing, and this is what you need to be doing, and so on and so forth. Should we be eating 5 portions of fresh fruit and veg a day, sorry, would be better a day, or is it 7? What actually is a portion of fresh fruit and veg? What constitutes that? How many glasses of water should we be drinking? How big is a glass? Should it be a litre? Should it be 2 litres? Is red meat good for us? What type of fat are we eating? Is it the good fat? Is it the bad fat? How many times a week should we be eating fish? Should we be eating chicken? And so it goes on. So it's not surprising that it can become frustrating and disheartening to know actually what to do. And in reality, most of us have busy lives. So if you've got a busy life, if you have a family, simply getting food on the table that suits everybody's likes and dislikes is probably an achievement in itself, let alone worrying about whether it's another one of the 5 a day, whether it's a balanced diet, whether you're eating all the things that you should be this week, because next week it's probably going to be completely different advice. Well, in fact, you don't need to worry about any of those things. If you just focus on some of the basic principles that I'm going to share with you in the next 10 to 15 minutes, then you can achieve a healthy diet without a lot of the fuss and worry. It can be easy and straightforward. So let's get cracking. Now, the one key aspect that you need to think about with your diet is not so much what you're eating, how often you're eating it, how much is this, how much is that. It's looking at your diet as a whole, so the general feel of the diet. And in fact, what you want to be aiming for is a low acidic diet, so an alkaline type diet. So before we go any further, perhaps what would be a good idea is to have a quick chat about acidity, particularly acidity in the body, and why it's a problem and why we're aiming for that low acidic diet. So firstly, the health in the body works on all sorts of different levels to keep itself healthy, all sorts of different things going on. But one of the things that it's doing is actually working via a lot of integrated, very complex, very finely balanced chemical processes. Now, if you think back to school days and science lessons at school, you'll probably remember that for chemical processes to work as you want them to work and to produce the outcome that you want them to produce, they have to have a certain environment to do that. So they have to have a certain set of circumstances, a certain set of variables there. And if you're missing any of those, then either the chemical process won't work or it'll produce something that you don't want. Well, the chemical processes that the body uses to keep itself healthy and to keep itself alive are exactly the same. They need a certain set of environment, a certain set of things to be there. And one of those things is a level of pH. So again, if you think back to science, pH is how you measure acidity and alkaline. Now, for the body, in the main, it needs a pH of about 7.5, which is ever so slightly alkaline. And in most cases, that's the best environment for those chemical processes to work. Now, because the body is always all about keeping itself healthy, keeping itself going from minute to minute, it will work really hard to ensure that it maintains that right pH. So it'll address any acidity that's in the body by pinching vitamins and minerals from other parts, particularly calcium from the bones, which, as I'm sure you can understand, isn't that good a thing to really happen. So that's one aspect of acidity in the body, but there's other things that happen. So where we have heightened acidity in the tissues or certain parts of the body, the cell membranes in that particular area become less responsive. So in essence, the cells are less healthy and they don't function as well as they could, which obviously is a problem. Nerve endings become less responsive, so your nervous system is one of your main communication systems, so that's impaired a little bit. It's not working quite as well as it should. If you've got heightened acidity, it actually damages the tissues. So in effect, you are corroding from the inside out, you're rotting from the inside out, which I know isn't a very nice aspect really. But one of the other things that happens with acidity in the body, which perhaps is a little bit less well known, is that it is the ideal environment for those additional visitors that we sometimes get that we really don't want. So I'm talking about the pathogens, bacteria, viruses and parasites. They will actively seek out an acidic environment because that's the type of environment that they thrive in, that they really like. So if you've got heightened acidity anywhere in the body, you will be more susceptible to those things in that part of the body. And because of all those other aspects that we've talked about, so the chemical processes, the cell membranes being less responsive, the nerve endings being less responsive, if you do get bacteria, viruses or parasites in those areas because of the acidic environment, the body's less able to deal with them, so they can become established there. Now, the double whammy with all of this, if you like to say it that way, is that once the parasites, bacteria and viruses are there, they then start to create their own toxins and waste, which just adds to the acidity in that area. And of course, then you get into a vicious circle. So they're creating acidity that encourages more bacteria and viruses there. It impacts on the body's less able to deal with them. So there's more acidity, so more come in, and you just get this downward spiral into ill health, all due to that initial acidity. So I hope you can see why acidity is such an issue. And in fact, from the approach to treatment that I take here at the practice, acidity is actually considered to be one of the main key factors in ill health, all ill health, regardless of what it is. So it really, really is important. So the body can become acidic. It can be interfered with to make it acidic by all sorts of different things in the environment. So things like chemicals, toxins, pollutions, heavy metal, that sort of thing can make the tissues acidic. But one of the other key areas is the diet. And in fact, your diet is probably one of the easiest ways to address that acidity in the body. So what you're aiming for is a low acidic diet, or in other words, an alkaline type diet. Now again, you might be sat there thinking, oh, this all sounds terribly complicated, and which foods are acidic and which are alkaline, and da-di-da-di-da-di-da, isn't that just making it more complicated, Sarah? Well, yes and no. It depends how much you want to go into this, really. So there are plenty of books, loads of fantastic information out there about alkaline diets and how to achieve them and what to eat and when to eat it and so on and so forth. And by all means, if you're really interested in this area and you have the time, then do go and have a look at that. It is a really good type of thing to look at for your health. So by all means, go and have a look at that. However, you can still benefit from this and still achieve that low acidic diet without doing all of that. So it is an easy thing to do, and I'm going to explain how and why it's easy now. So what is a low acidic diet? Well, here goes. And this isn't going to come as much of a surprise to you, I have to say. So the first thing that you need to focus on is eating plenty of vegetables. Don't worry about the, is it 5, is it 6, is it 7 portions a day, what's a portion, da-di-da-di-da, forget all of that. Just make sure that your diet includes, at every meal as far as possible, some vegetables. Try and buy your vegetables from the best source that you can, the best source that you can afford, or the best source that's available to you at the time. But again, eating vegetables is the key. Don't worry too much about, that it only has to be organic or it only has to be this or that. Just getting those vegetables in is good. So eat more vegetables. Eat plenty of fresh fruit. Now do watch the fresh fruit. It is good for you, but don't overdo it because too much fruit in itself can also be too acidic. The whole idea of this approach is that it's everything in moderation. In fact, in life, it's all about balance and everything in moderation. Even the healthiest of food, if we eat too much of it, is actually bad for us. So everything in moderation. So plenty of fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, but don't overdo it. Avoid processed foods, refined carbohydrates, sugar, so cakes, biscuits, ready meals, that sort of thing. We all know that that's not a good thing for us. I've just noticed some hearts going across. Obviously, I'm appealing to you with what I'm saying. Thank you very much. So avoid the processed foods, refined carbohydrates and sugars as much as you possibly can. Moderate amounts of tea, coffee and alcohol. So again, you don't have to cut them out completely. Everything in moderation, just don't overdo it. And drink plenty of water. And that's it. It's not rocket science. And I'm sure you're all now sat there thinking, but that's just a healthy diet. We already know about that. And you are absolutely right. It is just a healthy diet. So say don't get too hung up about how much and when and what have you. If you just focus on those key elements, you will find that it'll naturally start to fall into place. So thanks, Sharon's just said, great advice, thanks Sarah. No, my pleasure. Anything I can do to help. So the other thing to bear in mind with this and to make it a little bit more doable in our modern lives is the 80-20 rule. Now, I am a great fan of the 80-20 rule. I think it just helps us to forgive ourselves if sometimes we go off the rails a little bit. We all live, life just happens. We all have to live in the real world. As I say, everything in moderation, everything in balance. So the 80-20 rule, when it comes to diet, is all about you will have those days where you eat less well. It just happens. So there's all sorts of reasons. Maybe you're extremely busy. Maybe you're just having one of those days where it all just seems too much and really that piece of cake is all that's going to do it for you. Maybe you're out and about and it's less easy to control your diet when you're, eating out or even when you're on holiday. Give yourself a little bit of break. So the 80-20 rule works like this. If you're following those basic principles of fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, limited amounts of refined carbohydrates, etc., etc., if you're following that about 80% of the time, the other 20% really doesn't matter. So as I say, if you have a day when you eat less well than you think you should be doing, don't worry about it. Just make sure that the next few days you make amends for that and you try and eat as well as you can. So as I say, the odd piece of cake, the odd extra glass of wine isn't going to matter unless you're doing that all the time. So bear in mind that 80-20 rule. So I hope you see how, having a healthy diet doesn't have to be hard. Just those basic principles, just focusing on keeping that diet as low acidic as possible, as those basic healthy principles, and it will help your health so much, and you can do that just in day-to-day practice. Now, there's a lot more that we can talk about with regards to that, such as hydration and good eating habits and all of those sorts of things, but I'm not going to go into that today. We can talk about that at a later date. If you just start from today, focusing on those basic principles that I've been talking about, then that'll be great. So, I hope you found that helpful and I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do leave your comments and ask any questions that you want below and I will get back to you, as I said before. If you do want to know a little bit more about how you can help your health, if I can get my words out, your health and well-being in real common sense, easy to implement type approach, effortlessly and easily fit it into your life, then I've got lots more advice that I would love to share with you. So I've got a free ebook, from tired, stressed and unwell to feeling fabulous, a 3-step plan. So by all means, do go and get yourself a copy of that. I would love to share it with you, and I'll pop the link below this video so that you can do that. So that's it for today. Hope to see you soon, and thank you for your attention. Bye.